All right, power's back.
Okay, so with Freddie's power back, I think we could start even more with the power. So in this last class of this SCA series of Sefer Hoshea, the last pasuk of last week, Friday, I know you were here last week in class. AB, the end of last week's class, Ricky and Freddie and I, actually it was only Freddie and I at the end of the last class because Ricky had to leave early. We ended by saying that God was so disappointed with Bnei Israel and the way they were acting. He says, Elech ashuva el mekomi ad asher yeshemu ubikshu fanai basar lahem yeshahruneni. Okay? God says, you know what? I'm going to go back to my place, to my holy abode, until they're so guilty and ashamed that they're going to return to me. And we actually looked at the pasuk before. Abi, you might appreciate this as well, as a Baal Koreh as well. If you look carefully at this pasuk, we said, Ki anochi chashacha le'Ephraim kefi lebet Yehuda, right? I'll be like a lion to Ephraim. I'm going to attack them. Ani etrof ve'elech esa ve'en masil. You might know the pasuk from maybe? Ani, you know the ani from anywhere in Chumash?
I don't think so.
We actually, Freddie, you remember what we did last week? Now we can actually show the pasuk. Remember we connected it. If you remember last week, we connected it in Sefaria to the pasuk in Azinu, where it says, Re'u ata ki ani hu, right? I am the one, ve'en Elohim imadi, ani amit v'achayeh mahasti v'ani erpa, right? Ve'en miyadi masil, no one can save you from me. There it was talking about saving Am Yisrael. Here it's talking about destruction of Am Yisrael. And so God's saying, I'm going to return back to my place till you're ready to come back. The next pasuk, which is Perek Vav. And by the way, I would love to continue teaching Hoshea, maybe into whatever classes we do for the high school minyan. I would love to continue to do Hoshea because there's a lot of Pisukim that are very interesting in Sefer Hoshea, that are very relevant, especially around the times of Yamim Nuraim. There's a lot of Pisukim there. But here it says, Lechu v'nashuva el Adonai, ki hu taraf v'yirpa'enu, yach v'yach b'shenu. So you know what Bnei Yisrael say? It seems like, and again, I wasn't so sure about this. I'm still not 100% convinced. We have to read the entire Perek, but we have to see who's saying this. Who is saying Lechu v'nashuva el Adonai? It sounds like Bnei Yisrael are saying, fine, let's return to God. Ki hu taraf v'yirpa'enu. He will heal us. Yach, he hits us. V'yach b'shenu. Lahbosh means to bind, right? He will bind us up. He will fix us. So it seems like, oh, right, God just said, you're going to beg me for a favor. So I'm gonna go back to where I am, right? We think of God in the heavens, quote unquote. Now Bnei Yisrael doing teshuvah, right? Let's read these three pesukim because this is where Bnei Yisrael are talking. Yehayenu miyomayim bayom hashlishi yekimenu v'nehye lefanav. So he will Yehayenu miyomayim. What does that mean? Yehayenu miyomayim, right? What does that mean? In 2 days, he will make us whole again. And the third day, he will make us live. What does that mean, the third day? Boys, use your knowledge of Tanakh and Chumash. What do you know about the third day? Third day of pain. Third day of pain. Third day of suffering. What do you know of third day? Right. You know about the Berit Milah, that it's the most difficult day. It's possible, and I think Ibn Ezra is the one that says this. It's possible, and we'll read the Radak in Ibn Ezra soon, that the third day is the most difficult day, right? Right? He'll heal us. I don't know if it means in 2 days, maybe miyomayim, from the terrible suffering of the past couple of days. We'll see what this means. דעה נרדפה לדעת אדוני כשחר נכון מוסאו ויבוא הגשם לנו כמלקוש יורה הארץ. So בנדעה נרדפה. So, Lada'at Adonai. We're going to chase after knowledge of God. Keshahar nachon mosa'o. What's keshahar nachon mosa'o? What's shahar? What's shahar, boys?
Day.
Good, right? Like shaharit. Okay, kashahar. Okay, kashahar, like in the morning, nachon mosao, he will be there. Be'avo chageshem lanu, he'll be like rain to us that refreshes the earth. Yore ares. It enlivens the earth in terms of the ability for it to grow. Now, what are we talking about here? Who says these pesukim? Because the next pesukim, God says, no, I'm not going to help you. Those are the next pesukim. So what's going on with these few pesukim? Who's saying them? Why is it not with a positive reaction? Because the next pesukim, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, is all about them doing evil. So is this true teshuvah or not? Let's see. Let's open up Ibn Ezra. Okay. All the Ibn Ezra here is about Duk. So let's.
Is it like a Hatev Ashuv type of thing?
But again, didn't God say that? What did God say? Elech ve'ashuva el mekomi. Look at Ibn Ezra. Shiyodu shiyeshemu. They will admit it. And then they're going to ask for me. And what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to wait till that happens. Meaning it sounds like when it does happen, so I'll come back to them, right? That's what it sounds like to me. Doesn't sound like that. Doesn't sound like that to you? Sounds like that to me. So
What if we switch to the person who's talking?
This is very interesting. Bisudat David. This is very, very interesting. Look over here. Musav lema'la lomar hine be'et yaser yomru koze laze lechu ben ashuva el Adonai. It's just God quoting what they're going to say when they need God. Not to say they actually said it. Rather, elech ashuva el mekomi. Basar lahem, when it's troubling to them, they're going to beg me for the favor. What's that favor? This is the favor they're going to beg of me. Meaning, this is a very interesting way to look at it, right? This is what they're going to look at towards me when they need their favor. That actually fits. Because the next Pesukim is like, you guys just don't listen. You don't even do what I think you should be doing. The Radak says over here, here we go. Zeruz ha'ma'aseh, v'yishacha zeruz, good. Alicha yomad ish l'chavero, ki hu taraf, im nashuv elav, hu ha'moches, hu ha'rofeh. I have to see if over here that Radak says, I want to find that Radak I found before. Here's the thing about the third day, by the way. The Radak explains the third day just for a moment. Look at the third day. Inyan refu'ah, kemo ad hayotam, uchmo bayimrehu ala shehim, bayehi, amad, im holyenu yomayim, hu yidpaenu meholyenu ad bayom shlishi yekimenu v'nehyeh. Meaning, if we're very sick, he will heal us from the sickness that on the third day, we will come alive. We will be healed. Zeman rav lefanav, kilamar arko saratenu, zeman rav, meaning even if our suffering is happening for a long time, that's the mashal of the 2 days, the Yom HaShilishi, God will heal us. Ibn Ezra explains, yes, Freddie, question about that?
Yeah, what if you take it one step further and say that not only Yom HaShilishi represents the pain and suffering, but what if we're saying that they want to just start their berit when it's convenient for them, right? So we'll start our berit, and then we'll wait 2 days, and then on the third day, that's when God will save us. And then once we're done with God, then the next time we need God, we'll start our berit milah again.
Interesting. So that would be explaining that this is not a real teshuvah. This is like, it's fake, it's false. Good. Look at Ibn Ezra. והחכם רבי אברהם בן עזרא ז"ל פירש ביום השלישי הפך כל נשבר כי אז יכאב, because that's when it hurts the most. וכן אמר ביום השלישי באותם כואבים, right? Like with the Shechem story. ופירוש עוד יחיינו מיומיים, זה אמרנו על העתיד. ומיומיים, and another פירוש is that the 2 days, משל לשני גלויות, גלות מצרים וגלות בבל. ביום השלישי, משל לגלות הזה. According to other opinions, that the third day is this third גלות. השלישי שיקמנו ממנו ונחיה לפניו, שלא נגלה עוד. The third galut being not our galut of today, the galut of Bavel. The galut of Bavel is there's the galut of Mitzrayim, you have the galut of Bavel, and in the galut of Bavel, you now have the second suffering. So before the third Bet HaMikdash, before the second Bet HaMikdash that's going to be Yom HaShelishi, the galut that Hoshea is talking about, right? Of the galut that we're talking about with the Horban. HaShelishi sheyekayemenu minu v'nechye lefanav shelo nigle od la'olam v'nechye tamid lefanav kol yemei ad shelo necheta od. Those are 3 different opinions of what the third day means. Now, what are Bnei Yisrael doing over here, right? Right? Why is it such a false? That's what it seems like, something false. So here, Radak says, let's look over here. I don't know. He doesn't really explain over here why God doesn't accept it, right? That's why I like Mitzudat Sion's explanation. Mitzudat Abid's explanation. That we're talking here about the possibility that this is just what they're saying. Because look at the next part. Okay, what can I do to you? Sorry, Freddie, nothing against you. What can I do for you, Ephraim? Your chesed and your commitment, ka'anan boker. Avi, what does that mean, ka'anan boker? Right, what happens in the morning when there's a cloud, but then it gets sunny out? What happens?
Rainbow
goes away.
It leaves. And like the dew in the morning, what happens to the dew in the morning? It's there in the morning. And what happens when it gets sunny out? It leaves.
Dries up.
Hashem is saying here, what am I going to do to you, right? You want my chesed, you want my commitment and my favors, right? You want my favors, yet you're going to be like Anan and Natal in the morning. You're gonna be there for a moment and leave. So it could be, Freddie, maybe, that over here what's being said is that Ephraim is that I can't trust your teshuvah. It needs to be a real teshuvah, like Freddie was saying, right? It needs to be a real teshuvah. It can't be false and fake, right? I can't take the falsehood. The other way to look at it is God is saying, listen, I want you to do this teshuvah, but you're not doing it. Al ken hasabti b'neviim harachtim be'imrefi mishpatecha or yeseh. Right? Therefore, I hewed down your prophets harachtim be'imrefi. Right? We say in Tehillim, Hiyu lerason imrefi. right? We talk about our words should be leratzon, right? And this is the reverse of that. Haraktin de imrefi, God's imrefi, which by the way was to create the world, right? Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayomer Elohim. Here God's imrefi, mishpatecha or yeseh. The light will come out on the day of your judgment, right? I feel you, Abi. I feel you. Got that same yawn. It was pre-class, yes, busy days. Mishpatecha or yeseh. Okay, Abi, you got to come for the car wash. Come on.
Oh yeah. What day? I
You
don't.
got to
I'm,
schedule. We'll
I think
schedule.
I'm going to Florida next week.
Okay, we'll schedule.
Okay.
Look what God wants now. Ki chesed hafasti velo zabach bedat Elohim me'olot. What I want is chesed and knowledge of God. I don't want that sacrifices should be preferred over chesed and dat Elohim. Boys, where do we know a pasuk like this from?
Mali rov ziv hachem.
Good. Where else do we know this? An actual story within Tanakh where a person's told it's better to listen to God than to give korbanot. Meaning, your korbanot can be very valuable if they have a meaning with them. Let's open it up. Ki hatat chesem, I think it is called. I think it's in Shemuel Aleph Perek Yod Gimal. Here we go. Shemuel tells Shaul he waits the 7 days maybe, but he doesn't wait for Shemuel to come to Gilgal. And therefore, Shemuel tells Shaul the following. Oh, no, 1 second. Is it here? Let me just double check. It's either here or in Perek Tedvav. My apologies. Let me check. Nope, it's when he doesn't kill. It's when he doesn't kill Agag and the son of Bakar. Here it is. It says, "Vayomer Shemuel hafes Adonai be'olot uzvachim kishmoa be'kol Adonai." Right? Does God want the sacrifices? Is that as good as listening in the voice of God? Right? Listening to God is better than a good sacrifice. And paying attention to God is greater than the fat of the rams. Right? You've rejected God. Right? You've rejected God. Okay? So here you have Hafez Adonai be'olot uzbahim kishmoa be'kol Adonai. So here we have in Hoshea ki chesed hafasti v'lo zabach be'dat Elohim me'olot. Now, we can't just think of these terms as like social justice kind of terms. Okay? We're not just talking about, social justice and just being a good person. There's greater things here when you're talking about Hesed and Da'at Elohim, which go beyond that, right? There are certain mitzvot we might not understand that fall under Da'at Elohim, right? When you have knowledge of God, it also means certain mitzvot. But we do know that sacrifices are being used as bribes or as like an easy way out. So you have to, the idea is connecting with God. And we're not just speaking here about, and this is hard to understand, we're not just speaking here about being a good person per se only. We're speaking here about doing what's right in the eyes of God, right? Elohim. You boys understand that? So it's not only about, quote unquote, what we say being a moral person, which is crucial, very important. But sometimes it also means, sometimes we don't realize that some of the mitzvot that we might find to be, ridiculous or silly, it's part of the Torah. It's part of our understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it falls underneath that. I think that's important because that's like a difficult concept. We just think in like more broad concepts of Chesed and Da'at Elohim and just being nice and kind, which is crucial. But we have to do it under the rubric of the Torah and the way the Torah describes it. So it's important to realize that. Any questions on that, boys? Freddie, Avi, any questions on that?
No.
Okay, who wants to read the next pasuk? Pasuk 7, Vehimma.
I'll read it. והמה כאדם עברו ברית שם בגדו בי.
Oh, only a few words and it's just difficult words to swallow. Vehimma ke'adam averu berit. Sham paghedu bi. Let's explain what this means. Vehimma, meaning them, they. Ke'adam, like a man that broke a contract. This is important because it uses the word ke'adam. And the importance is like, it's speaking in terms of our berit, but it's saying you're like a person who broke a contract. Think about what it's like to break a contract. We don't break contracts. We should break contracts. Sham baredubi. What does it mean? Sham baredubi. So in the English, they explain this is where, as if in this aspect that they're preferring korbanot over the proper observance of Chesed and Da'at Elohim, in this they've gone against me. Let's see what Ibn Ezra says. Vehimma is talking about, he says, are the false prophets. No radak on this pasuk. David, kemo adam arishon, he says. Okay, that's interesting. But
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I was thinking of when he from I said that Tovara, or like when I first saw. No, like I don't know. I was having my midrashic lens on when it says "Ke Adam Miru Bidi." Which Bidi?
Let's take your midrashic lens a step further. The previous pasuk about Da'at Elohim, right? And you think of Etz HaDa'at Tov Bara. And a lot of Mefarshim say that Etz HaDa'at Tov Bara is not Da'at Elohim. Not the same thing. Right? Da'at Tov Bara is something unattached from Elohim. So Da'at Elohim versus Adam. When you think of Adam, who goes against that. But past the Midrash, by the way, even the whole Peshat of the first story of the Torah of Adam going past and breaking the Berit, right? Sham Baredu Bi, right? You think of Bered. What's a Bered? What do you do? What's a Bered? It means to rebel. But what do you do when you rebel, right? You're clothing up the issue and the problem. What did Adam and Isha do when he sinned? What did Adam and Isha do?
Put on clothes.
They clothed, right, Abi? You're about to say that, right?
Yeah.
They clothed. Sham baredubi, right? Interesting. Very interesting. I bet if we actually opened up Midrash over here, Vehimma ke'adam, and we have Bereshit Rabbah, maybe it quotes this pasuk. Let's see. Hoshea, mibeti agar Hashem. I wonder if this Hoshea pasuk is there though. Let's see. Here it is. There it is. Look at that. Bereshit Rabbah. Let's read it a moment. It's nice to. Vayikra Adonai Elohim el Adam echavet etmol ledaati ve'achshav ledato shenachas. Yesterday you ledaati. You were following my knowledge. Now you found the nachash. Etmol misof ha'olam ve'at sofo ve'achshav betoch etz hagan. Amar Rabbi Abu b'shem Rabbi Hanina. Ketiv behemma ke'adam averubit. Himma ke'adam arishon. There you go, Freddie. Bereshit Rabbah. We say Baruch Shekivanta, right? But this is powerful that we have these connections in Sefaria. You just click a button and Ma Adam Arishon, just like Adam Arishon, Hichnastiv le'toch Gan Eden. V'sivitiv, and I instructed him. Ve'avar al sivuyi, and he went against my instruction. V'danti oto b'shluchin u'b'gerushin. V'konanti alav echa. And what did I say? Right? V'konanti alav echa. Why echa? Because what question does Hashem ask Adam?
Ayeka.
Maybe you got that one. Freddie's answering to it before you. Ayeka. Bad service, bad Zoom service. Ayeka. And the Hachamim read that as echa, right? The first destruction was the expulsion from Gan Eden, right? Hachamim compare that. So here, the same thing, right? Hoshea is talking about that Bnei Yisrael are going to go into Galut eventually, or already from the 10 tribes. So we see here that the instruction was not followed, right? Vayomer lo ayeka echa ketiv. So we say, Af banav hichnastim le'eret Yisrael, v'sivitim ve'avru ala sivui, danti otam shiluchin u'girushin v'kadei hamecha. I wanted Israel, and I gave them a sivui, and they went against me, right? Very interesting. Very interesting. Very good job. Nice. Like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, continue. Gilad.
Gilad Kiryat Po'ale Aven Akuba Midam.
What does that mean? Gilad Kiryat Po'ale Aven.
Gilad is a place where they do Avon.
Akuba Midam. It's like, I'll give you the pin here. Kimo Akov Halev. Aseh be'okva. Akuva is like, crooked. Like Yaakov. Kichol Akov Yaakov. Akuba. It sounds like the word crooked to me. Yeah, Tadmit ve'ha'orma. Crookedness and deceit. Yes. Deceitful from dam. Now, you know what other, we say echa, right? Kirya ne'emana, right? The pasuk we say in echa, by the way, just to take that midrash a step further of maybe why they connected it to here. I feel you, boys. It's late and it's turn. Yawns are even contagious over Zoom. Look at that.
What'd you say?
I said yawns are even contagious over Zoom. So in Yeshaya, the Perek that you explained before, that we spoke about before, we say over here, Echa hayta lezona kirya ne'emana. Right? It was a trustworthy and a city. Kirya is a city. So here also uses the word kirya, but kiryat po'ale aven, people that are acting with iniquity, with evil.
I don't remember where I put it because I came home and I was in a.
Come on. Freddie, you want to read?
Sure. איש כדודים, חבר כהנים דרך ירסחו, שכמה כי זמה עשו.
Okay, never saw that word before. They were a gang of priests, of Gedudim, Heber Kohanim. The gang, sorry, the Heber of Kohanim, the group of priests are like bandits. That's rough, right? Their goal was murder. Who murder on the road to Shechem, Yirasehu Shechma. Ki zima asu. They've encouraged zima, right? Wow. It's rough to read that. But we started last week's class with the pasuk. I don't know, Freddie, if you remember this. Shim'u zota kohanim. Listen, you kohanim, you evil, right? The way you act I'm trying to give you musar and you're not taking it. So here you have the kohanim. Just the imagery here is so rough. Like they're filled with blood. They're filled with blood on their hands. And here we're talking about the habit of kohanim. Yirasehu shechma. Boys, come on. This is really like the 3 days, and now you're talking about shechem, you know. But let's explain what this means. What does that mean? They murder on the way to shechem. So Ibn Ezra says, Kemo le'ovdo shechem. Shechem is one unit. It's like they Shechem Ahad is like one unit, right? So I think what's being spoken about over here is you're like one group who are murdering.
Why would it be Shechema?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Shouldn't it be then Yirasehu Keshechem?
One second. Let's see. So this pasuk le'ovdo shechem. It says the following in Sefanya. Ki az epoch elamim safa berura likro klam shem Adonai le'ovdo shechem echad. Right? To serve him with one accord, with one goal. So you're saying here, the fact that it says shechma with the het and sounds like the name of the place, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think it's an adjective of.
So Ibn Ezra would argue that sometimes the he is used as an extra letter, where it doesn't necessarily need to be part of like a shortish or necessarily tacked on, like vehimma. Vehimma is like vehim. So the he sometimes can be attached to it. I think that's what he would say.
Poetic tool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Radak also uses Ibn Ezra. Baderech yiratzehu kulam shechem ehad. Ki mi sheyishlo yisach in yamod kinegdo. Right? If someone stands against them, right?
It makes sense. It makes sense because it's Haver Kohanim.
Yes, that's the point. Now, Ibn Ezra adds that they're like Gedudim, they're like bandits. Well, where do we see in Tanakh Kohanim that are stealing? Ibn Ezra says. Boys, where do you know a story where Kohanim are stealing from the people?
Are these sons?
Yep. Yep. For Eli's sons, exactly. He's referencing Eli's sons over here. It's crazy. I'm sorry, this just bothers me so much. Like, listen, I've seen, like, corrupt leaders, but the murdering part is like a step further than what we've seen. Like, we've seen things that are bad, but not this bad. Yes, we've seen corruption, but not murder. You get what I'm saying? It's like, it seems
No, not really.
much more. What?
Where haven't we seen murder with corruption?
We have, but we're talking here about Kohanim, and it's tough. Like, we've seen it. And you've seen leaders, I guess in ancient times, maybe like, you come in the way and, there's like murder. Murder's murder. That's just tough to swallow. It happens.
I don't know, why is it any easier to swallow a king doing murder than a kohen doing murder?
Because a king is a king and a kohen is a kohen.
I think you're biased, Rabbi.
Thanks. Okay, but the kohen's supposed to be the spiritual, so it's okay. בבית ישראל ראיתי שערוריה, שם זנות לאפרים נטמע ישראל. In the house of Israel, I've seen a horrible thing. Sha'aruriya. Any of you ever seen that word before? Sha'aruriya. Hata'am davar mego'al kate'inim hashu'arim.
Oh,
Ha'inim.
that's in that phrase is somewhere. Is it Shira
Where is
Shirim?
that? Check right now. Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah says te'inim hashu'arim. Loathsome figs. הנני משלח את החרב ואת הרעה ואת הדבר ונתיע אותם כתאנים השוערים אשר לא תאכלנה מרוע. Wow, it sounds like Yosef's dream. Paro's dreams. הנני משלח בם את החרב ואת הרעה ואת הדבר נתיע אותם כתאנים השוערים. I will treat them as loathsome figs so bad that they cannot be eaten. That's what about Bnei Israel, it sounds like. Right? Loathsome. Here we're talking about, I've seen loathsome things. Zenut le'Ephraim ma Yisrael. Right? The Zenut and the Tumah. I didn't get to look up, Freddie, your question from last week. I was thinking in my head on what your question was. Now I remember your question was Sotah versus Zonah, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never dug down into that. I need to. That was still a very good question. I was breaking my head today trying to remember what your question is. I should have just texted you, but I was breaking my head on it. What your question was. But it seems like Zenut was the, but I have to figure out why not. Sotah. Gam Yehuda shat qasir lach beshuvi shevut ami. Gam Yehuda shat qasir lach beshuvi shevut ami. Even Judah has reaped a harvest of you. You know, it's funny. I was working today on the Chumash that I'm working on. And in one of the Haftarot, I had a pasuk like this, where there was a parentheses about Yehuda. And I had to delete the parentheses. But it was talking, I think it might have been Sefer Hoshea, actually. And I think it was in later chapters where he's talking about Yisrael, and then says over there a side point about Yehuda. Right? What does this mean? Gam Yehuda shat kasir lach.
Doesn't shat mean sale?
Talking about reaping over here. Remember, it's missing the part of Shuvi Shevut Ami. The translation's missing things. Right, let's look right now. If you go to Mechom Amreh, they have the older Hebrew English of this pasuk. Here we go. We're in Hosea, chapter 6. Also, O Judah, there is a harvest appointed for thee when I would turn the captivity of my people. See, they just this JPS translation totally missed that second part of the pasuk. Gone. Just totally missing.
We really forgot to copy and paste that part.
Totally missing. Yeah, totally missing. What? No, maybe whoever did it. Also, O Judah, there is a harvest appointed for thee when I would turn the captivity of my people. Meaning, Yehuda, your time's also going to come. But what time? Beshuvi shevut ami. Let's see what this means. והטעם כששת חסי לך ועוזרך לעבוד הבעל בביתך שיהיה בלוי שבות עמי. Oh, wow. Even Yehuda had a time where they could have done teshuvah and they didn't. And therefore, I won't return you. Let's read this Ibn Ezra.
That's so confusing.
Let's see.
Wait, but
let's see. Ashi izkir Ephraim, ve'shat chesir ve'asak chesir kimo nata, ve'atam sheshat chesir lach ve'ozrecha la'avod haba'al bebet el, ka'asher haya belibi lehashiv shevut ami. When it was in my heart to return you, in sheyomru, that you should have said, lechu v'nashuva el Adonai. This gives us the key to the saying that lechu v'nashuva is what you should be saying. Uba'avur Yehuda sheiniach beti be'ozrecha, because Yehuda left and helped you, lo ashiv shevutecha. Because you left me to worship the Baal and Bet El, and you did similar to Israel, so therefore I'm not going to return you. When
Rabbi,
did that happen?
but I'm very confused because in Hoshea, Ephraim wasn't exiled yet, right?
Say that again.
In Sefer Hoshea, Ephraim was not yet exiled, right?
Why not?
Because he talks to them.
He might be talking about it. Is he speaking specifically only to them? What did we talk about when we spoke about Hoshea?
That it's all nevuah, it didn't actually happen.
Oh, that's just the Nivuah part of it. But when was he king? This is the king Hoshea. This is the king Hoshea. I want the Navi Hoshea. What do we speak about Hoshea? Yeah, what do we speak about Hoshea, the Navi? You know what? Give me one moment. I'm pausing for 1 second. So, yeah, we're gonna, spend maybe the next class that we have in the future looking at this pasuk. It's an excellent question, Freddie. Right? Are we talking about Yehuda enraging God to the extent that he won't return the 10 tribes? Are we talking about a future Nivu'ah that Yehuda also be destroyed for them also continuing in the ways of Israel? Are we talking about something current?
Possibility? Is that a possibility that
Yehuda almost got destroyed, right? We know that Yehuda almost got destroyed from Ashur for God's miraculous redemption. So it could be that at that moment Yehuda was doing evil, and then later on Yehuda does redemption and they get saved. So there's a few options here. I don't know which one to prefer, and I need to look into this further.
Wait, Rabbi, are you suggesting that that